Year 7. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up and share this document so we're all on the same page. Welcome, welcome to Shanna's Singing Workshop at Virtual Lark 2026. Um, I am your instructor. I'm Amelia Hogan. My background is I am not a linguist. I am not purely academic. I grew up singing traditional songs, learning at the feet of my elders, and that's really the most traditional way to learn this kind of singing is from people rather than videos or books or scores or anything of the sort. So I hope you have your listening ears on you and your bravery because singing in Irish is a challenge, especially if you're not used to hearing it as a language. Um, I grew up singing some of the songs that I later came to understand are a part of the Sean-Nós tradition. Um, I didn't really understand as a kid why what I was doing was so different from many other forms of music education, but this is this is my background, right? I've been singing traditional songs since the early 80s. Um, and my family, like, kind of doesn't matter where they're from, except my grandmother was a native Irish language speaker. And I have a few memories of her singing, like, children's songs. So that's going to be probably some stuff we pull in uh, a little bit at the end of today, day 2. Um, but we'll also pull in a more complicated song at the end um, to sort of get your feet tucked into the Irish language. And I'll talk about how I hear some of the sounds as an American singing traditional Irish songs. They differ in terms of how I will write out some of the phonetic stuff and how we'll go over and describe some of the phonetic stuff. But really, the most important part is to think about the songs as being somewhat alive. If you keep that sort of tucked in the back of your head, that will help you understand everything else that comes out of this tradition. So I'm going to pop up into sharing my screen with everybody. And this is my overview of singing Sean-Nós, which is to say old style. Traditionally, it is very, very much an oral tradition. So it is passed person to person, right? If you read it on a page, it is probably not Sean-Nós singing. If you learned it from a book, it is probably not Sean-Nós singing. Like, it becomes alive as it becomes a part of the singers and the listeners. So let's go top to bottom. It usually involves an amount of time listening to the singer and to the songs and to the room and to what you're doing with other people in the room with you, right? You're never singing sort of at someone. Performance is sort of an odd place for this style of music. It's become more popular in recent years to perform Sean-Nós songs, and it's like, ooh, very exciting and exotic and fancy, but really traditionally it's done in houses to smaller groups of people and pubs and your local community, right? It's sharing rather than performing to or at a listener. You'll often find if you travel to Ireland, people will wind up, sort of grab the hand of the singer, and they'll say us a song, right? They'll say, hey, let's be a part of it. They'll sort of like grab their hand, and the singer might close their eyes, and they'll sort of ground the singer in the movement of the story within the song that's right for the moment. But you have to take a moment to listen to what's happening in the room to know if that's the moment to quiet everything down, for everybody to listen closely and sort of lean into this kind of music. It usually involves, as I say, listening first, very long melodic phrases. Often you'll hear an individual singer will embellish. They'll They'll add a lot of notes for a given phrase, right? They'll call that melismatic, right? That's one of my favorite ways of thinking about this kind of music is it's, um, although sometimes very simple, a singer will embellish a moment or add grace notes or ornaments to a line or a phrase, so that they can emphasize something that they connect to as a singer. And you'll often find that when people who have studied with traditional Shannas artists or singers, they will often copy and then slightly change the embellishments, but not the core or what I call the spine of a melody. So when I'm teaching, I will try to strip it back of all of that extra grace note stuff. O'Neill's books sort of, if you're familiar with traditional tune sessions, will often include some of the grace notes and like cram them into a particular meter or phrase. But in this tradition, it's very individual. It's very specific to the singer, right? So it's a very personal kind of music. You're never going to hear a single song as though it were static, done precisely the same way twice. The singer's voice may be different. The emotional mood of the room may be different the next time they sing it. The listeners will be different. The moment will be different, right? All of this leads into remembering that if you treat the song like it's alive and it's allowed to change and grow and move and be of that moment with the people in the room with the song, then that will help sort of lay your foundation for diving into the deep end of this pool. When you think about Shanna singing, it's highly contextual, right? As I was just saying. So what I mean by that is that there's a lot of emotional subtlety that you as a singer get to bring to the table, right? What is true for you about this moment with this song? Find something that is emotionally true for you, and you will be getting your feet on that path in a pretty grounded way. I know that other traditional singers will emphasize the listening and the repetition and the precise mimicry, right? The call and response elements with their instructors or with their students. I think that's only useful to a point. Ask any questions. Now is a good moment, I think. Raise a hand and let's see if someone in the room. No? Okay. Where can we go here? So one of the ways that I like to think of this style of singing is that it doesn't require any other instruments, right? There's nothing else to ground it in space. The song itself is the thread. And it's a complicated and interesting thread, but that through line, that single thread, is kind of unmuddied by other things, which is part of why you have to listen very closely to it. You have to follow that thread from start to finish. It's almost like knotwork in music, right? And each embellishment is another turn or flip under something else. But as long as you're holding on to that thread, that continuity of melody, you'll be okay. So it's really good to be able to, if you have relative pitch or struggle with relative pitch, then find your way to maybe grab someone and sing a reference note if you need to find the placement for your voice. I know a lot of singers will just start wherever their voices want to land in Ireland. Like that's a particular way of just kind of launching into it. Very few people use pitch pipes, but some do. And I would say that if you get used to listening to what the song wants, you'll be in a good place. Does that make sense to people? Not if this sort of sinks in. Yeah. Okay. Um, so what I'm gonna do, here we go. We'll do the what is it not. It's not always in the Irish language, ascuelge. Um, and it's not every traditional song, traditional being probably older than 100 years and handed down from person to person to person, right? So something that is traditional, they've always been composed by someone, but a composed song, you can kind of hear the timestamps across, like where and when in the tradition you may have found a song. Um, but each song will necessarily change over time as each person touches it. So you can maybe sometimes treat other kinds of more rhythmic songs um, in a sean-nós way. You can sort of give it some structure, but traditionally it's an air. It's what's done with feeling. It's what's shared and sort of moved through based on the emotional state of what's in the room and how the singer feels in the song and with the song. It's a little bit of a dance. It's not exclusively child ballads or story songs, although sometimes there is story in the songs, and there's allegory, and there's depth and layers of meaning, poetic meaning behind the lyrics in some of these songs, depending on when they were written and who was doing it and what for. But but not all things that have structure that are very, very old are sean-nós songs. It is not a classical aria, so you don't have to hear it a mile away. You don't have to hear it off the balcony of an opera house. You can have a small voice and it's still good. It's still valuable. It's still lovely. It's still of the moment and with the people in the room with you. Um, Again, it's not pub songs, belting, musical theater. Let's get it as big and loud and raucous as we possibly can. So it shouldn't hurt to sing sean-nós songs. It should feel very fluid. Um, it's also not harmonized or group singing, right? There are too many melody lines or harmony lines or additional notes added in each thing, and so it becomes harder to listen to. Modern audiences have become very used to songs that have, how do I put this, that have multiple things to listen to latch on to attention. Um, but that is not what this is. Um, so you kind of have to listen closely and see what clicks for you and what resonates and what feels with what you understand in your experience. And that's the way that it's always been taught. But also, when you are used to or sort of exercising the ability to retain melody and listen closely, it becomes easier to do it the next time and each subsequent song and each thing that you've been shared with. Um, it is not everything a cappella. It is not barbershop. It is not like I participated in the Harmony Sweepstakes a number of years ago with a vocal trio I was part of. And there are some really great church songs. This is not that. It doesn't have a uniform metronomic tempo. It is not a steady pulse necessarily. You can sort of create some clothing for it to give it some structure. A friend of mine likes to say, putting a straight jacket on the song, right? To try to squeeze it into a particular time signature. It is not that. Think rubato. Think open and loose and able to flow and continue with the story. The song itself is more important than singing or playing with a cohesive group, so you can be freer with that tempo, with the rhythm of it. Based on that, it is not easy to accompany, right? the whole of Shanno singing is not florid ornamentation. It's not supposed to be just about showing off. It's about introducing listeners maybe to the song itself and to the story and to being able to follow into the world that is the song. Um, it doesn't usually have a chorus, but sometimes there are exceptions. And so we'll have a few examples of that as we go. And it is rarely, if not never, sung exactly the same way twice, because again, it's alive. Questions on any of that, like if you're at all familiar with any of these concepts. Nope? Okay. In recent years, it has become much harder to distinguish the regional styles of Shanno singing. Um, the North tends to have a very specific Ulster style of singing, has certain conventions that if you listen to enough of it over time, you can kind of catch on to what are some similarities between singers from the north of Ireland. Um, and most cultures have some kind of unaccompanied story singing, lengthy, lyrical, sometimes dramatic style of singing, but not all of them are, in fact, sean-nós. So in Portuguese, there are songs that are specifically more open and freer and mournful, and there's a whole tradition of this in Galicia. And it is not the highly ornamented. It's become very popular in the south, in Munster, Ireland, um, which it wins competitions. So everybody's now copying it, including younger folk. And so we may be losing at the Oireachtas, the singing competitions, we might be losing some of the differences between regional styles as they become more uniform, as people try to emulate what's one, right? Questions on any of that? Nope. No. Okay. Big folder, Shannos overview page. That's this. Songs in English to practice. Let's see where everybody is. Does anybody here go ahead and raise your hand in the with the little reactions button? If you raise your hand, let's see if we can get someone to try something that they've heard that they may. Are we at the place where we can think about someone has one they want to try out? Are we at a place for that, or do you need some examples before we get into it? I kind of want to gauge where the room is at. No? Okay. That's okay. Let's look at one of my favorite things. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second here. Dum dum dum. And I'm going to look at, oh, that didn't let me stop sharing. Let's try that again. How am I not able to stop sharing? Huh? No. Being recorded, yes, that's fine. This is someone better at this thing than I am. I think my most recent copy of this is a little bit old, but okay, fine. Let's look at something fairly straightforward. It's English language, and I'm not sure that we did this last time I was here, but I'll go ahead and sing it in English. This is Béarla, which is the foreigner's tongue, the foreigner. And so the structure of the verses, it doesn't have a chorus, remember, right? So checking off our checklist of what is sean-nós and what is some other kind of singing or style of singing. So this is the Verdant Braes of Screen, and I got this from a singer by the name of Susan McKeown. and I heard it at a couple of sessions based in Ireland a number of years ago, and I just really like it. So, as I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. Right, so that's the big Shannosi way of treating that verse in English language. And I am going to, let's see if we can break down each line and sort of describe what I'm doing there. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne. So the singer is setting up the scenery for leading people into this song. I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. So, right, this is a verse about giving a feeling of the place. Now, what I did when I sang some of the ornaments was I specifically hung on the ends of phrases. I added some trills and some moments that felt like this is a part of the description or the concept that I'm describing in that clause or sentence there. That it has a complete sort of it's describing something complete, right? As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. So you might actually make that a single sentence, but it's describing like what it feels like to be there. So what I'm doing is I'm hanging a few ornaments on the ends of phrases. That's a very northern style thing to do. And I have added a lot of complexity to the melody and the sun in the west country, because the west country is where all this setting takes place. And the dew on the forest green, it's like, ooh, there's a little sparkle in there, right? And so that's why I have created that. So I'm going to sing it straight, just the spine of the song, and let's see, and I'll sing it through twice, and then I'm going to call on someone to try a line. Try two lines of the song or a line of the song to see what it feels like to get into it. Yeah? Nod or thumbs up or something if that works for you. Or if I've lost you, let me know. Yeah. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne. Do it again. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne. One more time. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne. Right, so you have to have a pretty good understanding of melody to be able to follow it, but try singing with me, the simple, cleaned up version. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skryne. Yeah? I hear someone unmuted, so let's go with that person and see if you've got that and just like how you can bring that to life and sort of color it in with your singing. Go ahead.
As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant sprays of screen.
Pretty good, actually. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so go ahead and mute back up. And let's try one other person to unmute and sing and give it a go. Anybody? Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a try.
I can do that. Nah. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skreen.
Lovely. There you go. And you've brought a little color in. I heard some of the grace notes and adding a few ornaments um, to sort of make it yours, right? To sort of incorporate the song into you and you into the song. Um, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view. Let's see, let me go back. Simplify it a little bit. I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. I'll do that again. I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the hang on a second. I haven't stripped this out of all of its grace notes and ornaments again yet. So as I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skreen, I set my back, there it is, to a hawthorn tree. I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country. Let's do those two lines together. I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. Nice and simple. Do it again, all three lines. I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. Anybody got that? Raise your hand if you feel like you want to give it a go. Yep. Go ahead and unmute.
Hello, I'm Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
And hi, Amelia. Okay, where are we? I set
Set
my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country. And the part laps on the last part I don't know. And the dew on the forest green.
Pretty good. It resolved. It came back to where you want to start the next line. So, yeah, good go. Anybody else?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where does it start? Oh, I set my back.
Uh-huh.
I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green.
Nice. Good go. Anybody else want to give it a go? We can do it all together.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah? Great.
I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green.
Very good. So go ahead and mute yourselves up, and I'm going to go through it twice, all nice and stripped back. And then I'm going to start to color it in a little bit. But this is the core melody for all of these verses we have in front of us. Yeah? As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skreen, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. This is not simple, but you're doing great. And at least we've started in a language where we are a little more comfortable. I'm going to sing that one more time, nice and straight. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skreen, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. Now you could see how someone might make that come alive, right? So I'm going to sing it with the spacing that is Shannos, and we're going to start to move away from the more solid structure of just single individual notes following one after the next and sort of tie them together a bit. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Skreen, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country and the dew on the forest green. Right? So we've stripped out all the grace notes and we've just strung these lines together like you're telling a story and bringing someone into it or introducing people to it. The next thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to move on to the next verse. And we can kind of pick apart what's happening with the words, because those are also very important to Shanna singing. A lad I spied by Alan's side, and a maiden by his knee, and he was dark as the berry brown red, and she alway and one to see. Alway and one was she. Do that again. A lad I spied by Alban's side, and a maiden by his knee, and he was dark as the berry brown red, and she alway and one to see. Alway and one was she. Right? So I've kind of kept it a little bit solid, a little bit, you can kind of follow one note to the next, but I'm starting to string them together into phrases. Because what's happening here, you've introduced the place. Now what's actually happening is what I'm seeing. Right? I'm viewing an interaction. I'm an onlooker. So this isn't about me. This is about reporting what I'm looking at. And we as singers get to do that more honestly. We don't have to identify with the people in the story except as onlookers. We get to go, yeah, I saw that funny thing happen between a couple. Right? I'm leaning my back against a tree. And then here's what I see coming by. They're having a discussion, and I'm eavesdropping. So there's a little cheekiness there. And the singer's reporting, like, what do they look like? He's tanned. He's berry brown red, right? Which is pinky, tanny, like been in the sun, right? And she's all pale. She's maybe feeling not so great about this interaction. So how would you color that from line to line or phrase to phrase? Well, if you were speaking this, I'd say, a lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden by his knee, and he was dark as the berry brown red, and she all way and wan to see. All way and wan was she. Like, oh, how sad, the contrast, right? He's sunny, he's living life, he's having a great time. Oh, so that's part of what piques the singer's interest in this moment. So I'm going to sing it again, and we're going to go line by line, and we're going to try to bring it to life a little bit. Yeah? Nod, thumbs up. I'm going to do it twice, and then I'm going to start calling on folks to be a little bit brave and give it a go. A lad I spied by Avon's side. Now, I'm going to pause right here because there's an Irish word in there. And there aren't very many. Avon's side is a specific place within the West Country, right? It's like by the water side. Like I'm near a tree by the water side. So, or they're near a tree by the water side. My back is to a hawthorn tree, and I'm looking at them. So when you see an H in Irish that's following certain consonants, what it does, if you see it written, is it pulls the sound back. So instead of a B, it becomes a ooh, ooh. Oh, it sounds almost like a V, right? So Avon's side. Depending on where you are, they can elide it or soften the sound in different places in the mouth. But try making a B sound and then pulling it back just a little. B, B, V, V, V. Oh, ah. So when you see those H's in Irish words, they help you understand how to say the word out loud. A lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden by his knee, and he was dark as the berry brown red, and she alway and wan to see. Alway and wan was she. Right, and we're going to go ahead and do it one more time. A lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden by his knee, and he was dark as the berry brown red, and she alway and wan to see. Alway and wan was she. Like, he's like, oh, I'm kind of pitying her a little bit, in contrast with this guy who's clearly robust and been in the sun and having a good time, right? Just, it sets up a sort of emotional connection to, like, oh, poor girl. Who wants to try just those first two lines of the second verse?
I'll give it a shot.
Yep. Great.
A lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden by his knee.
Nice. Very nice. Who wants to give that one a go also? Next person? I'm going to wiggle my little eyebrows.
I'll try.
How about
Yeah.
Oh.
A lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden by his knee.
Great. Okay. I like it. And I like hearing the color of your voices lending some personality to this story a little bit, right? Who wants to try the next three lines as they come all together?
A lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden by his knee.
Great. Well done. And he was dark as the berry brown red, and she alway and one to see. Alway and one was she. Who wants to try that?
I'll give it a go.
Great.
And he was dark as the berry brown red, and she away and wan to see. Away and wan was she.
Nice. So one thing I want to point out that everybody's doing that is great is that the character of your voice is coloring how you sing it. You're not sounding like someone trying to sound like me. You're sounding like yourselves. And that is exactly right for this kind of music. You have your own lived in experiences in your own body, right? You're not trying to copy Aretha Franklin here. She's not in the room with us, but you are, and you're here with the song. And so everybody that I've heard popping up to be a little brave trying this stuff is bringing themselves to the table. The other thing I want to point out that's also really good is that you're singing into the resonance that is within your own body. There's a kind of quiet intensity that I'm seeing coming forth a little bit more, that is very much a characteristic of this kind of singing. So we're going to do that whole verse. Does anyone want to try the whole verse? We can link it together like a chain.
I'll try it.
Yeah.
A lad I spied by on one side, and a maiden by his knee, and he was as dark as a berry brown red, and she away and one to see. Away and one was she.
Nice. And I'm hearing you do a little storytelling in it too, just a little bit creeping into the story. So when you're describing what's happening, absolutely connect with what's happening in the song, right? Like what it feels like to be looking at this thing that you're coming upon in the wild or alongside the road. And so he starts getting into being kind of a schmuck. And he goes, "Well, sit you down on the grass," he said, "on the dewy grass so green, for the wee birds all have come and gone, since I my true love have seen," he said, "since I my true love have seen." And someone who hasn't tried it yet, do you want to give it a go? No? I'm going to start making it more complicated. Okay. "Oh, sit you down on the grass," he said, "on the dewy grass so green." And I just walked it up. There's a little bit of grace note in there. "For the wee birds all have come and gone." It's more complicated grace notes. "Since I've my true love seen," he said, "since I've my true love seen." Love has plaintiveness in it. Love has emotional connection. So does anyone want to try their version of some grace notes or some ornaments? We can sort of describe some of the different kinds. Again, I'm going to wiggle my little eyebrows. Anybody? No.
I
Maybe?
think Ed had his hand up. I'm not sure if that meant he wanted to try.
Yeah, let's give that a go. Hey, Ed.
Oh, okay. Oh, sit you down on the grass, said he, on the dewy grass so green. For the wee birds all have come and gone, since my true love I have seen, said he, since my true love I have seen.
Pretty good go. And I hear some color in your voice that is trying to make that quiet intensity of the storytelling happen there. So, nicely done. Then I'll not sit on the grass, she said, nor be a love of thine, for I hear you have another one, and your heart's no longer mine, she said, and your heart's no longer mine. Up, up, she's calling him out. Who wants to do that one? Who wants to give that a go?
I'll try it.
Yeah.
Then I'll not sit on the grass, she said, nor be a love of thine, for I hear you love another one, and your heart's no longer mine, she said, and your heart's no longer mine.
Great. Who wants to keep the story going? And you try a verse. There's no Irish in this verse.
I will,
Great.
but I want to say that
Hmm.
on other songs, when they say he was as dark as the very brown, this is the very brown red, but a lot of times dark means bad, bad guy.
Mm,
I thought I found one. I'm trying to think of the one where he stole her heart, and he was
hmm
dark. And they people keep changing it because they're afraid it means a black person.
Well,
And
so here's a challenge with translating songs from Irish to English
uh-huh.
is that a lot of the words that people understand in terms of translation have many more meanings and ideas attached to a concept than just something as static, right? Like if you meet it is less about colorism being a bad person and more about um, or anyone's physical attributes as though they were indicative of the internal character of a person. Um, that kind of didn't exist in this culture in this way in Irish language pre-English, right? So if someone is way and wan, well, yeah, she's pasty, but she's like sickly. She's not a better person. She's just kind of heartsick or something else is going on with her. And in the case of Dark as the Berry Brown Red, he's trying to describe this person as um, kind of a happy, like a carefree person. But a lot of the language has like multiple meanings at the same time, right? So Berry Brown is clearly kissed by the sun, is clearly like extra vibrant color, and there's more to that than just the physical description. It's also the character being described as carefree and like a tan beach blonde dude, right? Like that's part of what they're describing in this. And so the English translation fails a little bit in some of these descriptions. Um, and that's, I guess, what I wanted to touch on here, most especially. So don't go thinking that archaic Irish songs have sort of inherent modern associations. They didn't really. And that becomes confusing about someone's character being bad or dark, or someone is fair dark hair or fair dark head is a line in another traditional song. Telfer's Cows, I think it's a Scottish song. Fair dark head. So like pretty, but dark of color, right? So there's some of that confusing and going on. Does that help anybody like trying to wrap their head around this a little bit more?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Shall I sing the next verse?
Yes, please.
Well, I'll not heed what an old man says, for his days are well nigh done. And I'll not heed what a young man says, for he's fair, for many's the one, she said. He's fair, for many's the one.
So what do we think is happening in this line, or in this verse?
She doesn't trust his integrity.
Yeah. Like that's pretty clear from he's saying, well, even if someone told you I was philandering around, like you can't trust him, and she's like, I'm not going to hear what you say either. Like I don't believe you. And then she says, I'm going to find somebody else. I'm going to look around. I'm going to climb a high tree, and I'm going to bring some gems back to the person who's actually good to me. Right? So she's telling him to go off. Right? Does anyone want to give that verse that we just tried a go, or does anyone want to sing the next one?
I'll sing the next one.
Sure.
Maybe. But I will climb a high, high tree and rob a wild bird's nest, and back I'll bring whate'er I do find to the arms that I love best, best, she said, to the arms that I love best.
Nice. Bravo, everybody. Bravo for singing along with me. So I'm going to do it a little more lyrical, and I want you to try, as you're singing along, go ahead and mute yourselves, but to try out a couple of grace notes if you hear them as we go. As I roved out one bright May morn by the verdant braes of Screen, I set my back to a hawthorn tree to view the sun in the west country, and the dew on the forest green. A lad I spied by Avon's side, and a maiden on his knee, and he was dark as the berry brown red, and she alway and one to see. Alway and one was she. Oh, sit you down on the grass, he said, on the dewy grass so green, for the wee birds all have come and gone since I've my true love seen, he said, since I've my true love seen. Then I'll not sit on the grass, she said, nor be a love of thine, for I hear you love another one, and your heart's no longer mine, she said, and your heart's no longer mine. Well, I'll not heed what an old man says, for his days are well nigh done, and I'll not heed what a young man says, For he's fair for many's the one, she said. For he's fair for many's the one. But I will climb a high, high tree and rob a wild bird's nest, and back I'll bring whatever I do find to the arms that I love best, she said. To the arms that I love best. She's politely and not so politely told him to F off. And I think that's kind of charming to put into a song. Any questions about this? Or shall I launch into the beginnings of a song in the Irish language as a way to round out the day so that we can think about it and play with it and you can lodge it into your brains, and then we're going to kick off and I'll leave the session open for the next group. Anybody? We're gonna actually launch into what's another good one? I think I'm gonna go with something with a chorus. Let's go with Oro Shida Wahabalya. So we're just gonna start with a chorus today. But yay, good things are coming. Summer is coming. So summer brings in a whole bunch of celebration and good times. And the chorus goes, Oro Shida Wahabalya, Oro Shida Wahabalya, Oro Shida Wahabalya, Anisharaktan Saura. So we're going to leave you with just the chorus of a song to sort of whet your appetite for singing in the Irish language for tomorrow's session at 1 o'clock. Next person in the room, I think, is probably Marla, I'm guessing.
Hi, Amelia. I'm here.
Hello. So stick around for some fabulous melody instruments. And follow me after. I'm going to be hanging out in the lobby and I can answer questions about that last song. Please save the documents that were a part of our session today, the drive and the individual stuff. So I'm just going to give everybody in the chat a chance to copy the link one more time for the Google Drive. If you feel like donating to, yes, hey, great, I have excellent timing. Please donate to Lark Traditional Arts. 3 minutes left of the session. Here's a link you can copy and paste. But if you save everything to your clipboard or to your notepad or to your desktop or to your email, to email yourself or text yourself, then you can have access to all of these things after the fact. Thanks so much, everybody, for being brave and giving it a go to sing Sean-nós in English, just a little bit, and then a little bit in Irish. And we'll launch off tomorrow with recapping the English song and then getting into doing the Irish.
Thank you, Amelia.